Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the OPQ Recap Show. Of course, the Oceanic Qualifiers going into the LCP, OPQ, Oceanic Promotion Qualifier. I will be Vestian alongside me, my good friend Blue Panda. Together, we do the LCP English, and we're here to tell you what's going on with the Oceanic scene. So, have you been keeping up with any of the games?
Yeah, that's right. We've emptied out all the Oceanic retirement homes and the players are back. We've got some notable names coming back into competitive, looking for that chance to take a spot that might be rightfully theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the most exciting things that I've noticed as well, seeing some old names come back, seeing some new names eager to compete. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they do, not only locally, but then also if whatever team does make it, whatever team comes first, going over and competing against all the other wildcard invitational teams. So firstly, to explain the format of the competition, it is an open qualifier where we did see 19 teams register and start to compete. It is a double elimination best of 3 fearless draft until we do start to get to those upper and lower bracket finals where it becomes best of 5, and so it is very interesting. A lot of the players in Oceania, especially in the high elo, do tend to favor 1 champ, 2 champs, and that's how they've sort of made their claim to their high ranks. But now having to flesh out a little bit, the bans come through, the fearless bans come through, and it's very interesting to see where teams take it, because you look at the competition like the LCP and you get, okay, this is going to be Talia versus Zare, and then the next game is going to be Oriana versus whatever it may be. Just the same champs kind of recycled throughout the 3 games. But here, you get a bunch of different things. You get the Vexes, there's been Shakos being played, a very large variety of champions, and it really shows just in the right circumstance where different champs can thrive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a format that the lower tiers outside of Tier 1 haven't necessarily got to experience. Some leagues are opting to run it to give that little bit of a flair to their competitions, of course. But for Oceania, this will be the first time it gets a taste of the Fearless Draft in a domestic competition.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very exciting to watch, and we'll take you through how the games have progressed. First of all, of course, in the upper bracket. Quite a few games played there. Quite a few teams, unfortunately, falling to the lower bracket.
Yeah, I mean, you look at who we have in this bracket so far, you'd have those that you'd expect to do quite well. A certain jungler having fallen somewhat from grace, not really, but, formerly the coach of the Chiefs esports in the LCP, Poltron, now jungling in a team, looking to take the spot that he helped coach to, 0-20.
Yeah, 0-19.
0-19, yeah.
That's right.
For now.
But yeah, now they are doing relatively well in the competition. They started off, got their win on the first series, unfortunately did fall in the second series. And the interesting thing about that team in particular that I've kind of liked is that it is a meshing of both old players and new, right? They have their support Gavin, who was a newer player. He played in the OPL for 1 split. It wasn't a great showing from him. And they have up in the top side of things as well as BBP, he's known as, Baby Banana Peel. Quite an infamous man here in the Oceanic server, but very much a new player to the competitive scene, and he's doing very, very well for himself. But the historic player, usually known as Raze, he has competed with the Chiefs. He went over to the PCS in years gone by. So it is a nice meshing of new and old, and they're trying to really bring it together to fight to get themselves over into those wildcard tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, you look at just the old names, the old guard that has played through Oceania. Praedyth is there, Fido, Poltron, Destiny. I mean, it's just crazy the amount of talent that we're seeing, coming from the old guard that are back in looking. I mean, Violet, formerly of the Chiefs, as well as Poltron, now playing for Team Saving Ose alongside the likes of Doraemon, Evelyn, and Kiyose.
Yeah, absolutely. So some historic names, and especially for anyone that is an Oceanic fan, which I imagine the majority of people will be, it's names that you're all familiar with for the most part. And then there are, of course, some underdog teams, some black sheep, if you will, where you're not really expecting them to do amazingly well, but they have come out and really shine. And I mean, Vesperitine, for my money, a lot of young players, mostly 18-year-olds. They have Toppy, which is a bit of a more experienced person up in that top lane who has been sort of that rock for the team. But you look to their bot lane at Daisy, he's a very new player, I think 18, 19 years old, finally getting a chance to compete. Erdoran 1, much the same. I think he's 20 years old, never had the chance to compete. Actually, a Talon 1 trick in solo queue coming out. I mean, Talon's banned every game and still getting some really, really good showing. So there are really some good teams out there that are very much surprising and doing above and beyond what most people would expect.
Yeah, and I mean, especially coming off the back of this year, Hongq's almost miracle run. This young gunner turns 18 midway through the competitive year. You'd imagine that is the aspirations for these young players who have ground their way up through solo queue, have gotten themselves noticed and looked to assemble a team for the likes of the OPQ. That is the dream, to find yourself as a youngster amongst the gods of the Asia Pacific competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll be talking a lot about the teams. We'll take you through how the games have gone out throughout the competition. I'll let you take that away.
Team Saving O's at the moment has been having a pretty hectic run. The likes of, I mean, you look at UQ. We've got a bit of a throwback. Rich Dynasty, which I would imagine is a bit of a throwback, a callback to the likes of Rich Gang back in the OG days of the OPL. I mean, at the moment, for the front runners that you've seen, are they where you'd expect them to be?
Yeah, I mean, mostly. I mean, Saving O's coming in. I mean, they've got Violet. He, out of everyone in Oceania, has the most recent Tier 1 competitive, experience, I suppose. And so coming back, you expect him to be sort of the most on form. And so far, so good for that roster. And then much the same. I mean, looking at Rich Dynasty, I would have expected him to do a little bit better. But unfortunately, falling, I can't remember the name, Polar
Chair.
Polar Chair, that's it. Polar Chair getting the best of them, 2-0 even, which was very, very impressive. And it did actually make a roster change. After that series, Rich Dynasty choosing to make a roster change. They bring in Gavin instead of Destiny. And so far looking pretty decent with that change. We'll see if they can continue that. But Polar Chair really coming in and exceeding expectations. I mean, some of their players are phenomenal solo queue players. Prey in the top lane there especially. Very much known in solo queue for the Camille, the Fiora, these kind of very heavy skirmishing champs. But when it comes to this competitive games, he's been playing a lot of the Scion, a lot of the Cassante. So being more of a rock for the team, which is always very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at, so you look at the likes of Team Saving O's, made it through to the quarterfinals pretty unscathed, taking down Team Vespertine 2-1. They've pretty much had a clean run from there. They 2-0 Little Mermaid, and then, look, they had a bit of a rough go in the semi-finals against the UQ Eagles, so they booked themselves a spot in that upper final at the moment. Their opponents, of course, have had a rather interesting run themselves. Like you said, Polar Chair came through, made it into the quarterfinals, having taken down the likes of MCOM, which, you know, if you had watched the LCO, would be a name that you are reasonably familiar with. They then obviously take down Rich Dynasty 2-0. Find themselves up against Clown 069's party, which, I mean, again, there are some notable names on that team if you are familiar with the Oceanic scene. Take them down 2-0 as well. So you'd argue that they probably had the easier of the two runs alongside Saving Face. So that is your upper bracket final coming up in the very near future. Down in the lower bracket, though, things are getting a little bit tight. Of course, some of those teams that you'd expect to be finding success have somewhat slipped. Team Vespertine came out with a hiss and a roar. They find themselves in the lower bracket. Unfortunately, they are into that lower round of 8. They take that 2-0, making it into the lower top 4, so to speak. And like so Rich Dynasty, that's going to be their opponent in the upcoming match, of course. TMCFYN, they made it through to the top round 4. They've played their match against Twisted Takeover.
Yep.
Twisted Takeover, take it.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, Twisted Takeover, again, another roster with a bunch of sort of new up-and-coming names. They've got Willy Wonka up in the top lane, and he has been just on a tear in the top lane for the Oceanic server. He's, I think from memory, I'm not sure about now, I haven't checked very recently, but he has spent a lot of the time recently as that rank 1 top laner on our server. So not at the rank 1 position, that's Kyose sitting there atop the castle, but in terms of top laner, he has pretty consistently been that rank 1, and he's coming out looking good. Obviously, they do fall early on, make it to the lower bracket, and now they're looking to make that run to make it to finals up against, at least the lower finals up against either Polar Chair or Saving O. So it's going to be very interesting to see, but certainly some big names still left in the competition. And even today, as we film this, there's a bunch of games going on, and we're going to have a lot of answers to who is going to be competing on stream next week.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the likes of Willy Wonka, you think back to the most recent Oceanic showings from him, and he was a name that was consistently quite, coming up. He was often talked about, and what he was achieving against opponents you would have thought that would have outclassed him. I mean, there is some amazing talent coming up, some new talent, some fresh talent that might just help revitalize our chances internationally.
For sure. I mean, we've spent enough time talking about it. It's time to show you some of the highlights, some of the clips that have come from our action. So please roll the B-roll.
Stop moving the table, Ben.
Now, I hope you enjoyed all of those highlights. Now, for what's next, we are on the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. Going to have the live stream of the OPQ Lower, Upper, and Grand Finals. You can catch that on the Twitch. Of course, everything, all information about the OPQ available on opq.gg. And now for what we kind of expect. I mean, you always got to give a prediction when you're doing things like this. Based on what I've seen, and I've tried to keep up with a lot of the games, and I've watched a lot of what's going on, it does seem to me that if I had to predict, I would say Saving Oce alongside Polar Cheer probably will. Obviously, one of them go down to the lower bracket, but whoever it is, likely to make their way back into that grand final and contest for that spot at the wildcards. However, there are just so many unknowns, just how good these players can get. And the newer players, of course, each game they play, they get more experience, they get a little bit more used to this competitive environment, the fearless draft as well. So there are a lot of question marks, but I think just looking at current form, looking at how the tournament's gone, those would be my two favorites.
I don't know. I am always there for a bit of a revenge story. I want to see Rich Dynasty run it back. I want to see Poltron going up to try and take that spot from his former team to just finally nail it home.
That would, I mean, the same can be said as well for Violet, right? Same for Saving Oce, both.
With an asterisk, Poltron has been there longer, so I think that he probably has more just cause to that.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it is going to be interesting to see, ultimately. I think realistically, and from how the games are going, right, these two really good teams. Still, Saving Oce are dropping games. They're not getting their 2-0s every single series. Polar Chairs admittedly have, while I would argue having a little bit easier of a time. I mean, Rich Dynasty, not an easy team to go up against by any stretch of the imagination. But still, compared to Saving Oce, I'd say there are a little discrepancy in terms of the level of competition they've gone up against. And we'll see if that means anything, how those two teams look up against each other next week. But it is just going to be oh so exciting.
Oh, it's going to be so exciting, indeed.
I like that.
And of course, it is always important to remember that Oce can only thrive as long as its fans do. And if you're not back in Oce, look, we need you to get in behind. You can find everything on socials, on YouTube, on X, on everything. Just make sure you're there for game day, of course, because these players, like we, could be in the LCP.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been Veshian, Blue Panda. Make sure to check out the games next week.